Hello and welcome to LimeTube. Recently, a YouTube channel called WonderWhy uploaded a video titled, "Have the British Really Invaded 90% of the Countries in the World?" Link in the description below, which explains how many countries the British Empire has ever invaded. After watching it, I decided to make a somewhat similar video. I'm your host, Lime, and today I'm going to answer a question. How many countries has the United States invaded? To answer this, I'll use the Department of State's list of countries, also linked in the description below. I'll also use WonderWhy's criteria of invasion, which divides the world into 5 categories, ranging from definite invasions to definitely not invasions. Let's start with the countries that the United States has undoubtedly invaded. Right in America's backyard, there have been quite a few invasions. We invaded Mexico in 1846, Honduras in 1903, Honduras again in 1907, Honduras again in 1911, Nicaragua and Honduras again in 1912, Haiti in 1915, the Dominican Republic in 1916, Costa Rica and Honduras again in 1919, Honduras again in 1924, Honduras again in 1925, Cuba in 1963, Grenada in 1983, and Panama in 1989. There were several reasons for these invasions, ranging from annexing land, to fighting communism, to making sure our bananas aren't too expensive. I'm not lying about that last part, by the way. Many of these wars have been nicknamed the Banana Wars. Moving on to Europe and the Middle East, there are surprisingly few clear-cut invasions. America invaded Austria and Germany in World War I, and Italy and Germany again in World War II. We invaded Iraq in 1991 to fight Saddam Hussein. We invaded Serbia in 1999 to protect Kosovo during the Kosovo War, and, as you probably know, we invaded Afghanistan in 2001 to fight terrorists. There are more invasions in Asia, including 2 expeditions to Fiji, one in 1855 and one in 1859. There were also 2 neo-colonial invasions of China in 1856 and 1899, both to protect American business interests. Additionally, we invaded Japan during World War II and North Korea during the Korean War. As you can see, there weren't that many invasions in that category. So let's move on to our next category. They're still invasions, but less clear-cut. These include countries that were part of the American Empire, of which I could only find one example, Liberia. In 1835, the United States started colonizing Liberia as a place to send unwanted free slaves. However, since America has never been a traditional European-style colonial empire, we gave Liberia independence in 1847, and never really tried again to gain a large overseas colonial empire. The next thing that this category includes is countries invaded while part of a larger political entity, before gaining independence, or before the existence of a sovereign entity. Again, I'll start close to home. While fighting for independence from the British, America invaded Canada and the Bahamas, which were at that point owned by the British. We also invaded British-controlled Canada during the War of 1812. Now I get to talk about one of the least known wars in American history, the First Barbary War. It was America's first foreign war, and in it, we basically just sailed to North Africa to fight some pirates. Hopefully I'll make a video about it someday. Anyway, the only place we actually got to invading was Libya, which counts under this category because it was technically under the rule of the Ottoman Empire when we invaded it in 1803. You know what other Ottoman territory we invaded to fight pirates? Greece, which we invaded in 1827. We also invaded modern-day Côte d'Ivoire in 1842 to fight pirates on the Ivory Coast. During World War II, The United States invaded Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Slovenia, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Denmark while under Nazi rule, and the Solomon Islands, Tonga, Papua New Guinea, Indonesia, Kiribati, Palau, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei while under Japanese rule. This category also includes invasions against an independent nation with little to no actual conflict. During the Revolutionary War, the American Army performed raids on the British coast under the leadership of an interesting figure named John Paul Jones. You should look him up. During World War II, there was an American invasion of Monaco that just consisted of some Americans driving into the city and announcing that it was liberated. We also invaded Iran in 1980 to free some American hostages there, which I won't go too far into now because I'll probably make a video about it at some point. Basically, after some helicopters got blown away in a sandstorm, we just decided to give up on the invasion. I'd also add to this category invasions of puppet states, since those are kind of sovereign but not really. All examples of this occurred during World War II, when the United States invaded France, San Marino, and Burma, German, Italian, and Japanese puppet states respectively. Those two categories combined make up 49 countries, or about a quarter of the countries in the world. Depending on what you consider an invasion to be, those are the only countries that the United States has ever invaded. This next category is countries which could be counted as either invaded or not invaded, depending on interpretation. It is at this point that I should probably elaborate on the term invade. Definitions of invade can range from militarily enter for the purpose of subjugation and conquest to enter in large numbers. So I'll let you decide for yourselves if the rest of the countries mentioned in this video have been invaded or not. Anyway, this category includes countries which we invaded in order to help the locals, such as South Korea, which we invaded during the Korean War to protect it from North Korea, Kuwait, which we invaded during the Gulf War to protect it from Iraq, and Kosovo, which we invaded during the Kosovo War to protect it from Serbia. This category also includes countries temporarily occupied in a transitional period. Again, all examples of this are from World War II. In that war, we helped Britain occupy Iceland and Suriname, and we helped the Netherlands occupy Trinidad and Tobago. We also occupied Vanuatu and Tuvalu to prevent the Japanese from taking them. This category also includes countries that were attacked but not invaded. Like before, most of these examples come from World War II, when we bombed a few countries while under Axis control. These countries are Micronesia, Romania, Nauru, Bulgaria, Montenegro, Slovakia, and Czechia. America also bombed Bosnia and Herzegovina during the Bosnian War. I'd also add to this category United States involvement in civil wars. The United States fought in the Samoan Civil War, the Russian Civil War, the Laotian Civil War, the Cambodian Civil War, the Angolan Civil War, the Lebanese Civil War, the Salvadoran Civil War, the Somali Civil War, the Syrian Civil War, and the Yemeni Civil War. These wars were fought for several reasons, usually including fighting communism, instating America-friendly regimes, and fighting terrorism. Oh, and lest I forget, Vietnam. Vietnam is the country that I had the most trouble categorizing. The United States had a large military presence and did a lot of fighting in Vietnam during the Vietnam War, but does it count as an invasion? It doesn't quite fit into either of the first two categories, but it seems to be too large of a conflict to not count as a definite invasion. In the end, I decided to put it in this category because the Vietnam War was, in effect, a civil war, and civil wars count in this category. The next category is countries which weren't really invaded, but if you want to go into technicalities, you can say that they were. It includes very minor military action. The only example I could find of that was a time in 1858 when the United States brought a warship to Paraguay to make the government apologize for sinking an American boat. It also includes troops passing through. Again, I could only find one example of this, Egypt. Remember that Barbary War I talked about? Well, during that war, we moved some troops through modern-day Egypt to get to Libya. This category also includes peacekeeping missions. America sent some troops to Macedonia to protect it during the Yugoslav Wars of Independence, but those troops weren't involved in any combat. America has also worked with various governments for anti-terrorism missions in Sudan, Djibouti, Niger, Uganda, and some countries already listed in previous categories. I'd also add to this category coups, since they usually involve some military action, but not enough and in not the right ways to be classified as invasions. The United States was involved in coups in Guatemala in 1953, Brazil in 1964, Chile in 1973, and Argentina in 1976. The final countries I'll mention are ones which America accidentally attacked. During World War II, we accidentally bombed the Holy See and Switzerland, and we accidentally attacked Pakistan in 2011. The last category is countries which the United States, even by the absolute loosest definition of invasion, has never invaded, shown in red. So, to review, the United States has definitely invaded 49 countries, or about 25% of the countries in the world. If you want to be more inclusive in what you count as invasions, the United States has invaded 77 countries, or about 39% of the countries in the world. By the absolute highest count, the United States has invaded 92 countries, or about 47% of the countries in the world. If you compare my map to the British invasions map, you can see that the British have invaded significantly more countries than the United States. So, the next time somebody says that America has invaded more innocent countries than any other nation, you can tell them we're only second place. By the way, shout out to my sister for providing this video's music. That music was, in case you were wondering, the ukulele instrumental version of Gucci Gang by Lil Pump. Also shout out to my other sister for proofreading this video. If you want to look further into this topic yourself, I put in the description a link to the spreadsheet I used for this video. If you find an invasion that you think I missed or miscategorized, let me know in the comments below. I will periodically update the spreadsheet whenever I discover an invasion, or when a new invasion occurs. I might also release an update to this video if I think it's necessary. But for now, peace out, Lime Gang.